Welcome back. This is the Caffaro way, and today we're not tiptoeing around anything. We're going straight into the truth, the raw, unedited, uncomfortable truth that most of us are too afraid to say out loud. We're talking about masks, not costumes, not Halloween, but the emotional armor we put on to be loved and not left. We wear them to survive, to be accepted, to keep the peace, to feel like we belong. And if I'm being completely honest, there was a season in my life where I wore so many masks, I forgot I even had a face underneath. I want to take you back to my childhood, because that's where the mask gets introduced. I was the youngest, not the loudest, okay, maybe the loudest, but not the strongest, but I felt everything. I didn't always have the words, but I had the knowing. The emotional radar, the quiet intuition, the way of reading the room before I even knew what holding space meant. I watched how people responded to chaos, to silence, to pain, and I made a decision, without even realizing it. Stay good, stay small, stay out of the way. Because of being the youngest didn't mean I was carefree. It meant I learned to hold my storm so others didn't have to feel theirs. I became the one who made things easier, the one who smiled when things were heavy, the one who turned pain into performance and sadness into strength. I learned early if I didn't take up too much space, I'd be safe. If I was agreeable, I'd be loved. If I made people laugh or stayed light, I wouldn't be burdened. So I became that. Not because I was fake, but because I was too scared to be enough. Scared to be too much. Scared that if I didn't show the truth of what I was feeling, it would all fall apart. We don't choose the mask consciously. We inherit it. From our families, from religion, from school, from a culture that teaches us to earn love by shrinking who we really are. I remember sitting in church as a kid, hearing about sin, salvation, and obedience. And somewhere deep inside, I made a vow I couldn't yet name. If I do everything right, I'll be okay. I'll be accepted. I'll be loved. So I became palpable, put together, appropriate, even when I was unraveling inside. And for a long time, it worked. Until it didn't. Until the mask got too heavy. Until my soul started whispering, there's more to you than who you had to become to be safe. As a few decades passed, I became someone who could read the room and adjust seamlessly. Not because I was manipulative, because I thought that's what love required. Adapt, deliver, be impressive, be easy, be whoever they need. In my 20s and 30s, I could shift shapes with the best of them. In the OR, I was sharp, confident, unshakable. The one people trusted to get it done, even when I was silently crumbling on the inside. At home, I was a reliable provider. I paid the bills, held it together. But emotionally, I was somewhere far away, numb, disconnected, trying to survive the weight of the version I'd built. At church, I was a modeled member. I raised my hand, memorized the verses, said all the right things, but none of it touched the places in me that were really actually bleeding. On dates, I was charming, polished, smooth. I could make her laugh, make her feel seen, but deep down, I wasn't showing me. I was giving the highlight reel because I didn't believe the raw cut would be enough. And the wild thing is, it worked. I got affirmation, success, approval, love. But it never touched the part of me that needed it most. Because underneath all of those roles, the polished man, the provider, the performer, was still a little boy wondering, if I show them who I really am, will they still love me? That fear never left. It just got better at dressing itself up. It put on a suit, learned how to smile, learned how to get applause and keep people comfortable. But in the quiet moments, when the lights went down, when no one was around, I felt the void. Because when you're always being what others need, you forget what it feels like to be you. And the deeper truth, I was terrified that if I stopped performing, I'd be left. So I kept going, face after face, roll after roll, until the day the mask started to crack and the truth began to rise. I want to pause here and talk about men, because underneath all the versions of me I learned to become was a version I never learned how to be. I was taught to be strong, to be steady, to be the one who held it all together while everything else was falling apart. But I was never taught how to be whole, only how to be useful. For a lot of us, especially those raised in tradition, religious, or performance-based environments, our worth got tied to what we could do, not who we were. We weren't taught how to feel. We were taught how to function. And most of what the world calls masculinity, it's just pain in a tailored suit, grief with a paycheck, loneliness buried underneath responsibility. I was taught, don't cry, don't feel too much, don't need too much, be good, be strong, work hard, provide, protect, don't fall apart. But no one told me what to do when I actually did fall apart. No one told me what to do when the weight I was carrying got heavier than the mask I was wearing, when the strong one didn't feel strong anymore, when faith that once held me stopped making sense, when my body, after years of grinding, said enough, when the marriage crumbled, when the foundation cracked, when the identity I built around being the man, the provider, the achiever, the fixer started to collapse. What happens when your marriage ends? When your body fails you? When your belief system shatters and the God you thought you knew goes silent? What happens when you left with nothing but the question, you either meet yourself or you build another mask? I tried both. There were moments I thought I was healing, but I was just hiding better. I slapped spiritual language on top of unresolved wounds. I stayed busy, stayed productive, stayed impressive. Because the moment I slowed down, the truth started to rise, and it started to scare the hell out of me. The truth is, I didn't know how to be with my pain without judging it. I didn't know how to be held without first proving I was worth it. I didn't know how to say, I'm not okay, without feeling like I was failing as a man. Because masculinity, as I inherited it, was a box with no oxygen. It gave me tools to perform, but none to process. It taught me how to protect others, but never how to protect myself. It gave me a role to play, but not a soul to live from. So I reached a crossroad. One path said keep pretending, keep playing the role, keep earning love through usefulness. The other said strip it down, fill it all, burn the mask, let the truth be enough. I didn't choose the second path overnight. I fought it. I tried to negotiate. But the pain has a way of getting your attention when the mask starts to crack. And once I started to see the cage I was in, I realized the door had been wide open this whole time. I'll never forget this moment. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was the first time I truly stopped. It wasn't some mountaintop revelation or a spiritual ceremony with fireworks. It was more human than that, more raw, more real. I was sitting on the floor of my bathroom, back against the cabinet, lights off, just the faint, ghostly glow of my phone screen, the only thing illuminating the space. But even that felt too bright. I'd just come out of surgery, another one. My hips were wrecked, not just physically, but symbolically. The very part of my body that represented movement, momentum, masculinity was completely broken. I couldn't walk. I couldn't run. I couldn't power through this time. I'd just also been let go. The career I'd poured myself into had shifted beneath me, and the security I thought I had, gone. No title, no spotlight, no recognition to hide behind. My relationship had just ended too. The one place I thought I could collapse into disappeared. And my kids, my anchor, my reason, my daily dose of purpose, worth their mom that week. So there I was, alone, physically wrecked, emotionally unraveling, financially uncertain, spiritually silent. No one to perform for, no role left to play, And for the first time in what felt like decades, I had nothing left. No energy to be strong, no script to recite, no hustle left to give. I wasn't a provider in that moment. I wasn't a leader. I wasn't even healing. I was just me, sitting in the dark, hurting, empty, and stripped of everything I thought made me valuable. And then, through the silence, through the ache, through the fog, a voice, not loud, not booming, but deep and clear and undeniable. It said, "What if this was never who you were? What if you're finally about to meet the real you?" And that shattered me, because some part of me knew it was true. All the years of striving, all the personas, all the effort to outrun the pain, to prove my worth, to earn my place in the world, none of it was me. And in that moment, something inside me cracked. The mask didn't just slip. It shattered. I cried. Not just tears, soul tears. The kind of cry you feel in your bones. The kind that doesn't ask for anything, just releases. That moment didn't heal me, but it revealed me. It didn't wrap things up. It tore them open. And in the ruin, I saw the first real glimpse of freedom. Not the freedom that comes from escaping pain, but the kind that comes from finally telling the truth. I don't know who I am without the performance, but I'm ready to find out. That's when the rebuild began. Not on the outside, but from the inside out. And I made a quiet vow sitting on the bathroom floor. If I make it out of this, I'm never going back to who I pretended to be. Here's what I want to say to you now. Not as a writer, not as a performer, not as a polished version of myself, but as a man who has lived it. Wearing a mask is not harmless. It's not just something you do to get by. It's not just a season. It's not a survival strategy that goes away on its own. It's a slow death, and it will cost you more than you can see while you're still in it. It will cost you your voice, the sound of your own truth, until one day you realize you've become the fluent in what other people need and completely disconnected from what you feel. It will cost you your intuition, because when you spend years overriding your gut to stay liked, approved, or needed, you stop trusting yourself. You start second-guessing every whisper, every signal, every sacred knowing. It will cost you your relationships, because you can't build intimacy on performance. You'll keep people close enough to admire you, but never close enough to see you. And eventually that gap becomes a wall you don't know how to tear down. It will cost your ability to reset, because masks are heavy and performance is exhausting. Even when you're off, your nervous system is still running the script. Be good. Be impressive. Don't let them down. It will cost you your joy, because your real joy requires presence, and presence requires permission to be real. If you're always editing, adjusting, filtering who you are, there's no room for joy to land. It will cost you your connection to God, because God doesn't meet you in the role. God meets you in the raw, in the messy, in the surrender. And when you're too busy trying to earn your worth, you miss the love that was already yours. But the deepest cost, the one that breaks you open, it costs you the kind of love that sees you as you are. Because when you perform for love, even if you get it, you don't trust it. Why? Because deep down, you know they love the version of me I'm projecting, not the one I wake up with at 2 a.m., not the one who's scared, not the one who's tired, not the one who doesn't have it all together. And that ache, that quiet, lingering ache, it builds and builds and builds until something cracks, until you can't hold it anymore, until the roles stop working, until the smiles become a burden, until your body, your relationships, your soul all say, no more. The moment is terrifying, but it's also holy, because that crack, that rupture, it's not the end. It's the beginning. It's the space where the real you gets to finally breathe, where you stop chasing love and start remembering you've been lovable all along, not as a mask, not as a role, but as a soul. So you're probably wondering how you start taking off the mask. Let me be honest with you. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't some polished transformation with hashtags and playlists. It was messy, brutal, beautiful, and honest. It started after my body gave out. 3 hip replacements. Physical pain so deep it broke through every wall I had left. The man who always pushed through, always showed up, carried the weight, suddenly couldn't even walk without help. And that's when I realized the strength I built my life around was no longer available. And I had no idea who I was without it. I didn't have the tools. I didn't have a roadmap, but I had a decision. Keep performing or start peeling it all back. So I began. Therapy. For the first time, I let myself sit with someone and say out loud, I don't know who I am anymore. I talked about childhood, religion, divorce, shame, being the youngest, being the good guy, the smooth one, the strong one. I talked about the moments I wanted to leave this world and the ones that kept me here. Yoga. Hot, uncomfortable, humbling. I walked into those rooms with 3 hip replacements and a broken sense of self. And every drop of sweat felt like an old grief leaving my body. I learned to breathe again, to listen, to stay in the pose even when everything screamed, run. Breath work. That was a different kind of truth. Not performing, no words, just me, my breath, and all the pain I'd buried for decades. I screamed into towels, shook on the floor, met a younger version of myself, the boy who never felt seen, the man who was scared to feel. It was crying in the car, at red lights, on the way home from drop-offs. After nights I felt totally alone, wondering if I'd ever feel whole again. It was deleting numbers, letting go of people I was still performing for, walking away from connections that fed my ego but starved my soul. I started saying, if it costs me my peace, it's too expensive. It was late nights writing, pages soaked in truth I've never told. Trying to make sense of the chapters I never wanted to admit were mine. Turning pain into paragraphs, doubt into sentences, shame into something sacred. It was saying, I'm not okay out loud. To friends, to strangers, sometimes to my own reflection. And slowly, that sentence lost its power to scare me. It was admitting I didn't know who I was and learning to be okay with starting there. It was looking my kids in the eyes and saying, Daddy's learning too. Not pretending, not faking strength, just showing up in the mess with love. It was walking out of the church, not because I lost my faith, but because I refused to keep shrinking myself to fit inside a version of God that didn't include my pain. It was walking out of rooms I once built my identity in, the boardrooms, the roles, the platforms, and realizing I was still standing, still breathing, still me. And maybe for the first time, just me. No mask, no role, no script. Just a man learning how to live from the inside out. Unmasking is holy work. Not because it's easy, not because it's pretty, but because it's true. And truth, the kind that costs something, is where freedom begins. That's how I started. Not with perfection, but with a single decision. I am done hiding. And from that moment on, the rebuild began. So I want to ask you the question that opened me and shattered me at the same time and saved me. Who are you without the mask? Not your title, not your income, not the version of you people admire, not the polished self that shows up with a smile even when your heart is tired. I mean the real you, the one who shows up barefoot, tender, raw, human, the version of you who isn't always certain, the one who doesn't have all the answers but is brave enough to stay anyway. Can you love that version? Not fix them? Not hustle them into another role? Not explain them away? Just love them? Because most of my life I couldn't. I was taught to perform, to provide, to be strong, to keep it all together for everyone else. I didn't know how to just be without doing. I didn't know how to love myself if I wasn't being impressive or useful or good. I thought my value came from how well I could manage other people's comfort, not from my own presence. I remember a moment with my son Cash. He was 3 at the time. I had been holding it together for weeks. The stress, the pain, the weight of trying to be everything and not show the cracks. We were playing in the living room, and I must have spaced out, mind somewhere else, body exhausted, soul worn down. He looked at me with those clear eyes, so pure, and asked, "Daddy, are you tired?" And I started crying, and I broke. Not on the outside, not yet, but something inside me collapsed. Because yes, I was tired. I wasn't just physically tired. I was tired of pretending, tired of performing, tired of carrying the world on my shoulders and calling it love. But I didn't say all that. I just nodded, quietly, carefully, and without hesitation. He climbed into my lap. Didn't ask me to fix it. Didn't try to cheer me up. He just curled up into my chest like my presence alone was enough. That was the moment I realized he doesn't love me because I'm strong. He loves me because I'm here. Not on, not perfect, just present. And I thought to myself, and if I can be loved like this by him, maybe I can learn to love myself like this too. But life doesn't change in just that one moment. Not long after that, I had another one. Different context, same soul truth. I just had another hip surgery. I'd lost a relationship. I was let go from work. My body, my identity, my stability, all gone in the same season. The spotlight was gone. The momentum was gone. The mask was cracking. I walked outside and sat on the curb in front of my house. Just me, the quiet, and a couple of cars passing by that didn't know a man sitting there was in the middle of the identity death. No notifications, no meetings, no affirmations, just stillness, just breath, just me. And I remember staring at my hands and thinking, who am I now? What's left of me when I'm not being everything to everyone? And in that silence, in that sacred, brutal pause, a whisper rose from somewhere deeper in my mind. This is who you are without it, and this is enough. It didn't feel like freedom right away. It felt like grief. Because when you start peeling off the mask, you have to grieve the years you wore it, the people who loved you for it, the things you lost while hiding behind it. Your grief, the validation, the image, the roles, even the illusion of control. But behind all that, it's your breath, your presence, your soul, the part of you that was always there, waiting to be seen, not for what you do, not for who you prove, but for who you are. So let me ask you, man or woman, mother or father, leader or seeker, who are you without the mask? When the applause fades, when the job ends, when the kids are asleep and the house is quiet, when you're no longer trying to be liked, needed, or impressive, who are you when it's just you and God and your breath? Can you love that version? Can you be with them without judgment? Can you sit beside them like you would a dear friend and say, "You're not too much. You don't have to try so hard anymore. You are already enough." Because that version of you, the one who limping but keeps walking, who cries and still chooses to stay open, who's not finished but still faithful, that's the version worth fighting for. That's you, your soul has been trying to bring home. That's the one God sees even when you feel unseen. That's the one your kids feel safe with. That's the one your partner's heart wants to meet, not the role, but the real. So if you made it this far, if your chest is tight or your eyes are burning, if something inside you feels like it's shaking loose, don't run from it. That's your soul saying, "Let me out. Let me be. Let me finally come home." You don't have to perform to belong anywhere. You're already worthy. You always were. Take a breath. Take the mask off, even just for a moment. and meet yourself there. So if you're in it now, listen closely. If you're listening to this with your back against the wall, if you're sitting in your car right now, tears silently falling while the world keeps spinning, if you're scrolling through life, smiling in the photos, but dying in the quiet moments between, please hear me. If you're hiding behind a smile, trying to hold it all together, trying to stay strong for everyone else, but secretly wondering how much longer you can do it, if you feel invisible, even in a room full of people, even in a family you love, even with a partner in a bed beside you, like no one sees the part of you that's slipping away, please hear me. You are not crazy. You are not broken. You are not too far gone. And I know what it feels like to collapse behind closed doors, to show up for everyone else while no one knows you're running on fumes, to be the strong one until your own soul stops recognizing itself. I know what it feels like to go through the motions, to make the money, to hold the marriage together, be the parent, the partner, the provider, while secretly wondering, what about me? When do I get to come home to myself? Let me tell you something I wish someone had told me sooner. You don't have to earn your way back to being whole. You don't need a bigger following, a better relationship, or a stronger prayer life to deserve love. You don't need to get over it faster. You don't need to fix your trauma overnight. You don't need to be perfect to be real. You don't need to be impressive to be worthy. You just need to be honest. Even if that honesty feels like failure, even if it feels like saying I'm not okay is letting everyone down, even if you spent years being the one who fixes, the one who inspires, the one who keeps going, let me say this loud for the ones who feel ashamed to fall apart. Falling apart is not failure. It's an invitation to pause, to feel, to be held, maybe for the first time in your life. I remember nights I wanted to disappear. Nights where I stared at the ceiling and begged for God for peace. Not success, not answers, just relief. Nights when I questioned everything. Who I was, what I believed, why I kept showing up for a life that felt so far from my truth. And then one day, in the middle of the silence, I stopped performing. I stopped pushing. I stopped pretending I was okay. And in that moment, something holy happened. Not dramatic, not polished, but real. It was the first breath I'd taken in years that didn't come with pressure. So if you're here right now, on the edge, in the dark, trying so hard to hold on, let go. Not in despair, but in surrender. Let go of the pressure to be everything to everyone. Let go of the idea that you have to fix it all today. Let go of the guilt from being human. Let go of the story that says your pain disqualifies you from love. It doesn't. In fact, it's the pain that makes you real. It's the honesty that makes you strong. It's the cracks that let the light in. This isn't the end of your story. This is the middle, the turning point, the sacred unraveling that comes before the rebuild. And if you're breathing, you're still in it, which means it's not over, which means there's still time to come home to yourself. Not the mask, not the version of you that everyone applauds, but the you that whispers at night when no one else can hear, please don't forget me. I'm still here. That voice, that's your truth. That's your return. So tonight or today, wherever you're listening or whenever you're listening, if all you can do is cry, let it be holy. If all you can do is breathe, let it be enough. If all you can say is, I'm not okay, let that be your first step home. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful. You don't need to be fearless to keep walking. You don't need to see the whole path to make the next step. You just need to stay in your body, to stay with your truth, to stay with your soul, even if it feels like it's in pieces. You're not alone in this. And I promise you, if you keep choosing honesty over performance, presence over perfection, and truth over everything else, you will come home. And the real you will be there waiting, worthy, lovable, and finally free. But to be free, we got to do some practical stuff. This journey of unmasking, of returning to your truth, it's not just emotional. It's not just spiritual. It's practical. You don't need another performance. You don't need a post about this. You don't need to impress anyone with your healing work. You just need real one step, one honest breath, one sacred pause where you stop editing and just tell the truth to yourself. So here's something I invite you to do this week. Not for content, not for your partner, not for your friends, just for you. Set aside 10 minutes, turn your phone on silent, light a candle if you want to sit in your car if you have to, go outside. Wherever you can be with yourself, uninterrupted, unfiltered, and unjudged, and try this. 1. Write down the mask you've been wearing. Be brutally honest. No filters, no fluff. Name them. The achiever, the perfectionist, the strong one, the good girl or the good boy, the spiritual one, the fixer, the one who never cries, the one who always has the answer, the one who makes it look like they're thriving even when they know they're barely breathing. Write them down, all of them. Don't worry if it feels uncomfortable. That discomfort is the beginning of truth. Now 2, circle the one you're most tired of, the one that's been weighing heaviest on your soul, the one you slip into without even realizing it anymore, the one that feels like it's crushing your spirit just to maintain it. Maybe if it's the I'm fine mask, maybe it's the I've got it all together mask. Maybe it's the I'm strong for everyone else mask, even when you're falling apart inside. Circle it, name it, feel it. You don't have to rip it off just yet, but acknowledging it is the first real breath your soul has taken in a while. 3, now ask yourself this. If I took off this mask, what would I be afraid they'd see? Write down that part too. Let the fear speak without trying to fix it or silence it. It might say, they'll see I'm not as confident as I pretend. They'll see I'm still grieving something I never admitted. They'll see I'm scared. They'll see I don't know who I am without this role. Whatever it is, let it come through. This is the part where healing gets real. Because you can't truly be seen if you're still hiding from yourself. And when you're done, just sit with it. You don't need to solve it. You don't need to spiritualize it. You don't need to explain it to anyone. Just sit with the truth. Because this is where everything begins. The rebuild. The coming home. The version of you who doesn't have to perform to feel worthy. The version who breathes deeper, cries softer, loves harder, because it's finally real. Start there. Start messy. Start unsure. Start tender. But for the love of your own soul, start. Because your freedom isn't in the becoming someone else. It's finally remembering who you've been all along. Beneath the masks, beneath the roles, beneath the noise. You don't just need to earn the version of you. You just need to return to them. And this week, the return begins with a pen, a page, and the courage to tell the truth. I really hope that exercise brought some clarity and some awakening within your soul like it has done for me. So I just want to say this podcast, it isn't about building a brand. It's not about algorithms or aesthetics or followers. It's about building a life, a real one you don't need to escape from, one that feels honest in your skin, one that sounds like your voice when no one's listening, one where you don't have to keep editing yourself just to be loved. It's about building a life that feels like you, the unfiltered, unpolished, unmasked you, the you that remembers how to breathe, the you that doesn't perform to belong, the you that's been buried beneath survival and is finally ready to rise. So if today cracked something open in you, if you felt that lump in your throat, the sting behind your eyes, the fire in your chest, good. That means something real is waking up inside you, something sacred, something you've been carrying for years but couldn't name, a part of you that's been whispering, please don't forget me, I'm still here. Don't rush it. You don't have to figure everything out tonight. You don't have to rebuild yourself in one breath. This isn't about becoming someone better. This is about remembering someone true. Let the layers fall. Let the aches guide you. Let the grief come not as your enemy, but as your teacher. Let yourself unravel without apology, because when the mask falls off, the soul finally breathes. And that breath, that's the beginning of life you actually want to live. Not one to hustle to keep up, not one you filter for social media, not one built around shoulds and shame. A life that's yours, fully, finally, and free. So if you're here, still listening, I just want to say thank you. Not for following me, but for choosing you. For choosing to feel. For choosing to face what hurts instead of hiding from it. For choosing to come home. We don't need more brands. We need more truth, more breath, more spaces where people can say, me too, and mean it. That's what we're building here. Not a show, a movement, a mirror, a reminder that you were never too far gone. You were just waiting to be found again, by yourself. I'm Johnny Caffaro, and this is the Caffaro Way. Welcome home. If this episode landed, share it. Not to perform, but to give someone else permission to drop the act. And if you're ready to keep walking this road, I'll see you in episode 3. We're going to be talking about fatherhood, failure, and fierce love. Because sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is keep showing up when you feel like you're falling apart. I love you. Let's keep going.